Dark magic is one of the coolest things Fire Emblem has. I've made it no secret that I absolutely adore using dark magic users because of how cool their magic looks and how fun it often is to use in gameplay. So today, I wanted to take a look at dark magic throughout the series' history, going over both the lore reasons behind the magic itself and the characters that use it, just to sort of give a little history lesson at how dark magic has evolved throughout Fire Emblem's 30-year history. So please, come on in and enjoy the tales of all the druids, shamans, dark mages, and necromancers. And don't forget to like and comment on the video and subscribe to the channel, or else a necromancer is going to be the only way your friends can talk to you.
There is no meme. This is just a threat.
Before we get into it, I'm going to throw up a spoiler warning. I'm talking about dark magic throughout the entire franchise, and there's a lot of games that have the mythos of dark magic play an integral part of their story. So if you're not familiar with the entire Fire Emblem franchise, I'd recommend sitting this one out. Or, just stay here and get spoiled. Don't give a shit. It's a free country, do what you want. Talking about the history of dark magic in Fire Emblem is actually a little tricky because where it begins is entirely down to bullshit semantics. Dark magic, as a type of magic separate from other types, does not exist until Fire Emblem 4, Genealogy of the Holy War. However, in Fire Emblem 1 through 3, there are definitely spells used by the enemy that would be classified as dark later in the series, such as Hell and Mire. So in order to be thorough, I'm going to say that Fire Emblem's first Dark Mage is one of the main antagonists of FE1, Garneth, and his dark magic spell, Umhulu. The spell renders him completely immune to any damage, except from Gateau's Starlight Tone. So a driving force behind a lot of the first game is getting the materials to make Starlight so you can kill Garneth. It's actually really neat how dark magic from the word go has this incredible mythos and strength behind it. But there would be no player units that could use this magic, and as I said before, Umhulu is technically not dark magic. The distinction doesn't exist yet. It is just magic that is dark. In the next game, Fire Emblem Gaiden, dark magic still doesn't technically exist, as magic in Gaiden is separated between black magic and white magic, with white magic being your support and healing spells, and black magic being all of your damage spells. So I don't think anyone's going to call the likes of Fire and Thunder dark magic just because they're called black magic here. However, there are plenty of black magic spells that would later be classified as dark magic later on down the line, such as Miasma, Mire, and Death. So technically this could also be seen as the start of dark magic. It's also the start of Nosferatu, the spell that can't make up its goddamn mind, being considered black magic in Fire Emblem Gaiden, then being considered light magic once the distinction starts in Fire Emblem 4 and 5, then it's considered dark magic throughout Fire Emblem 6, 7, and 8, then it becomes light magic again for Fire Emblem 10 and 9, then goes back to dark magic in Fire Emblem Awakening and Fates, and then becomes light magic again in Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Seriously, Nosferatu just does not know what the hell it wants to be. It's okay, buddy. You'll figure it out someday. Fire Emblem 3, Mystery of the Emblem, introduces the Dark Mage class, but Dark Mage is just a name for enemy mages, those particularly close to Garneth. They don't actually use dark magic because it still doesn't technically exist yet. But hey, this is the first appearance of Dark Mages, so I'm gonna mention them. And just like that, I'm gonna move on. Fire Emblem 4 introduces dark magic for certain. No more semantics, no more this is considered dark magic later. Honest to God dark magic. Well, maybe not honest to God, but moving on. Dark magic is the primary weapon of the Lopterian cult, a group of people that ruled the continent of Yggdrasil years and years before the events of Fire Emblem 4, until they were eventually defeated by the 12 Crusaders and were forced into hiding. Now, if that's all that happened to them, it would just be their own just retribution, but after their defeat, the people of Udral continued to hunt and harass them, burning people at the stake who weren't even involved with the Lopter cult's Iron Fist. A lot of them were just children trying to live normal lives. Because of this, the Lopterians got really angry over the years, and through the powers and machinations of Manfroy, they were eventually able to rise up again and use their evil dark magic for evil once more. So, what with it being the weapon of a cult, you don't actually get any dark magic users in FE4. The spells are purely enemy only, and they are quite powerful. Your Mungan can deal a fuck ton of damage and also poison you, and they have powerful spells to reduce your move or set your HP to 1. But you don't get to use any of those cool toys. But it still starts the separation of dark magic as its own thing, and gives it its own mythos, which is kind of cool. I just wish that I could use one. If only Kakyoin from hit manga series JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders was in Fire Emblem. Surely he would be able to help me. Salem here is a ex-member of the Lopterian cult, who was initially brainwashed by its propaganda and hate, but eventually grew to see the truth of their actions and tried to separate himself from his peers, eventually being sort of adopted by Pern's band of misfits, the Dandelions. And dark magic fans around the world can rejoice. The first playable dark magic unit in the franchise is one of the best units in Fire Emblem Thracia 776. For reasons that have nothing to do with his dark magic. In fact, it is in spite of his dark magic. What makes Salem so good is his staff rank of C, and staves are incredibly significant in Thracia, with a ton of powerful ones like warp, rewarp, etc., and Salem can very quickly use them, because promoting him will instantly take that staff rank to B, so you need very little investment to get it to the cap of A, and then he can start doing all kinds of dumb shit. But what if I want to use his dark magic? He's the first playable dark mage. I want to be dark. Unfortunately for you, there's a big penalty for it. While dark magic is some of the strongest magic in the game, they have incredibly high weight for their tomes. And in Thracia 776, you can't mitigate that speed penalty for whatever reason. While physical weapons get their weight reduced by the con stat, it doesn't work on tomes, and your Mungand has a whopping 12 weight. And in Thracia, all stats cap at 20. So even if you have a perfect Salem, he's still only going to have 8 speed max. And that's just not enough to ever really double with it. So why would you hit them with your Mungand once, when you could hit them with Fire or Thunder twice, and do much more damage? It also doesn't help that there are only 2 Dark Mage tomes Salem can use. Your Mungand, which he can use at base, and Fenrir, which requires him to reach an A rank in Dark Magic, which, with his base rank C, is difficult because his Dark Magic rank doesn't increase on promotion. So you have to attack with your Mungand, which you'll only be able to attack with once because of the speed penalty, over and over and over just so he can use Fenrir, and it's just not worth it. It is much better to use Salem as a staff bot. So yeah, the first playable Dark Mage in the series, really good unit, just not for using dark magic. Also, weird fact about dark magic in this game, when enemy mages cast your Mungand, you get poisoned, and when you cast it, they don't get poisoned. What was with Fire Emblem and just not letting you poison enemies for a while? Seriously, did they think doing 2 damage a turn was too broken? I've never understood that. Anyways, moving on to Fire Emblem 6 and 7, they take place in the continent of Eleve, and with a new continent and new world, comes new mythos for dark magic, instead no longer being tied to a death cult, and it's now part of just the schools of magic, and it is the strongest of them by far. We only really learn of what dark magic is through the supports of Nime in Fire Emblem 6 and her son Canis in Fire Emblem 7, but the picture is that it can be very powerful in the right hands, with Nime saying it could tilt the entire planet if needed, and Canis offering a much darker look into what happens to those that pursue dark magic much too far, saying, quote, "As you know, Elder magic is based on the forces of darkness. It is even more powerful than nature magic, which is often called anima. But to use this magic, you must invite the dark forces within you. The temptation to submit to the darkness is great. Unfortunately, the darkness took my brothers. They live and breathe, their eyes open and close, but they do not move, and they do not speak. There is no guarantee that I will not join them. Truthfully, it scares me. However, I must see the other side. My curiosity pushes me ever deeper. It will be my undoing." And believe it or not, that lore behind dark magic is not just for Canis to aura farm and look cooler than the big dumb nerd that he really is. It's actually incredibly relevant to Fire Emblem 7's story. Fire Emblem 7's main villain, Nurgle, was someone who lost their mind to dark magic. He initially wanted the power of it to open a place called Dragon's Gate, which he had hoped to guide him to his children and wife, who he had lost long, long ago. However, the dark magic and power needed to open that gate corrupted his mind and caused him to forget what he was trying to open the gate for, instead only desiring to open the gate because that's all he could remember. So yeah, dark magic in Alib is kind of fucked up. And, more importantly, it's really cool. So, okay, dark magic is really cool in Alib, but how good are the units that actually use it? Fire Emblem 6 gives you 3 dark magic users, and the first among them is Ray. He is certified okay. His base stats are a little low, but his growth rates are good, and if you want to use him, he can become quite a powerful ally. But he actually suffers from a very unique problem. You see, Ray suffers from a disease called working correctly. In Fire Emblem 6's hard mode, enemies get their stats increased quite dramatically, and because of this, a unit like Ray, who is okay in normal mode, would struggle much more in hard mode. But he should get a bonus. After all, he's recruited as an enemy, and if enemies get stronger, shouldn't he get stronger? No. Allies that you recruit that start as enemies are programmed to not get hard mode bonuses. Except if they come in as a reinforcement, because if they don't start on the map, whatever flag in the game's code that tells them to not get buffed doesn't get read, so they come in with hard mode bonuses. And wouldn't you know it, every single enemy you recruit in Fire Emblem 6, except Ray and Hugh, are reinforcements, so all of them get hard mode bonuses. Hugh, while he doesn't get hard mode bonuses, has his own separate glitch that you can have his stats underflow and then reach a cap beyond what they're supposed to, and it's still really funny, even if it's not that useful. So Ray doesn't have the hard mode bonuses that would make him good, or the Hugh glitch that would make him funny. Instead, he's just a dude who works like he's supposed to. And that's really funny that being programmed correctly is his biggest detriment. The second dark magic user you get in FE6 is Sophia, and she is widely regarded as one of, if not the worst units in the entire franchise. I'll put it to you this way. She is a level 1 dark mage who has stats that are pretty bad for a level 1 dark mage, growths that aren't that good, and she shows up over halfway through the game. Even if you train her up, she's still not good. I have no idea why they didn't just give her really good growths. She still wouldn't be good because you would need to time sink so much into her, but she would at least be fun. Instead, Sophia's just garbage. I don't understand why she's like this. But thankfully, Nime comes in and makes everything better. Because she is one of the best units in FE6 because of her staff rank. Yeah, Nime has the exact same thing as Salem. She's a really good unit because of the letter that's next to her staff rank, not actually using dark magic. There is some merit to having Nime see combat with dark magic, because if you can get her dark magic rank to S, she can equip Apocalypse. And if she has that equipped, that gives her +5 magic, which she will then use to use staves. Yep. All the good dark magic users so far are only good because of staff rank. Can I please just have a really good dark magic user who's actually good for his dark magic? Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to take really good. I will take good. Not great, not bad, good. Just a good dark magic user for dark magic. Well, good news! Canis from Fire Emblem 7 is the answer to my prayers. He is a good unit. His bases are a little low, but with enough level ups and a speed wings, he can quickly start to take over on his own. On top of this, Canis benefits from a new tome introduced in Fire Emblem 7, Luna, a tome that completely ignores enemy resistance at the cost of having 0 might, and it also has incredibly high crit chance. And surely you have to understand that's incredibly useful. Being able to ignore enemy resistance is great, right? I mean, there have to be enemies with enough resistance in Fire Emblem 7 to warrant Luna's existence.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah, Canis is better off using Flux, because Flux has 7 base might, and I shit you not, that is on average higher than the resistances that Canis is facing, so it does more damage. However, Canis is still very useful for doing damage, and Luna does have enemies that it's particularly useful against, namely a lot of late game bosses like Limstella, Nurgle, and the Fire Dragon. So Luna does have its place, I just think the fandom kinda overhypes it. And Fire Emblem 7 technically has a second dark magic user. The final unit you recruit in the game is the Archsage Athos, and he comes in with an S rank in all types of magic. So, he is technically a dark magic user. Athos is very useful in the final map of the game, because with his high damage, he can really hit all of the final map's threats really well. And those guys can hit even a well-trained army pretty hard, so yeah, Athos can contribute and be really useful. And if you give him Luna, that's actually the best way to deal with the final 2 bosses of the game. So that's a win for dark magic. A kind of good unit in Canis, and giving Athos a single book at the end of the game. Man, dark magic does not have the strongest showing, does it? Moving on to Fire Emblem 8, the Sacred Stones, you do have largely the same mythos for dark magic. While Magvel is a different universe than Alib, its general idea for dark magic is the same. It is the most powerful type of magic and has great potential for good, but just as well, it has great potential for darkness. Now, I will give Magvel credit that its lore for dark magic actually does go into the prejudice against dark mages and the benefits it can bring. FE6 and 7 talked about how dark magic is great power, but doesn't really go into what it can actually do. Fire Emblem Sacred Stone shows that it has all kinds of powers. Leon, the game's main villain, uses its powers to predict the future, seeing storms before they come and warning port towns of the incoming danger, saving thousands of lives. He also uses the dark magics to enhance other magic, such as using it to power up his healing abilities to save a little girl that other healing staves and doctors couldn't. So yeah, good on Sacred Stones for showing that dark magic isn't just dark. However, there's actually a bit of prejudice against dark mages in the lore of Sacred Stones, with their dark magic being seen as dark. I know, they really didn't do themselves any favors by calling it dark magic. The character Noel elaborates on this, saying that he and Leon were using dark magic for good, but no matter how much they did, people still had their own preconceived notions of dark arts, and it really got to all the people trying to use it, as he says, quote, "Perhaps we were bitter that we received no credit for aiding Grotto, that we received no accolades for our research, for the benefit it brings. I do not know. But we pressed on nonetheless. The misconceptions linking the ancient magics to evil die hard and slow. Prince Leon sought to change that. He wanted, as we all wanted, to prove that our magic had good uses. And now, I see it all so clearly. All our research amounts to nothing. All I can do now is lament our hunger for knowledge, our greed." Much like Nurgle before him, the presence of dark magic in the world around him is a big part of Leon's motivations. While he didn't go mad like Nurgle because of dark magic, being looked down upon for what he was trying to do fueled his self-esteem problems, which in turn fueled his relationship with Erica and Ephraim, and then everything starts tumbling down from there. It's a very interesting way to look at dark magic, and it's probably my favorite in the series at how it handles it. But moving on to the gameplay of dark magic in Fire Emblem 8, it's, not that great. Not only did Luna get a huge nerf, even though it really wasn't that warranted, dark magic's ultimate spell also suffers from not being effective against monsters, when by the time you get it, almost everything you're fighting is monsters, and the other two magic tomes get effectiveness against monsters. It's just the dark magic that doesn't, and that does hurt its viability. But even more than its viability as a weapon, the people that use it also serve to show that dark magic has problems. Noel is the game's only dark mage, and he is okay. His abysmal base 0 luck, while really funny, does affect his hit and dodge rate pretty considerably, and his stats aren't the greatest. You can train him up, but he's really just gonna fall behind every other mage. And Ewan, the pupil who talks about wanting to be a sage, starts in anima magic and talks about how excited he is to be a mage. Yeah, you can make him a shaman. It's free. The government won't stop you.
Don't listen to that guy. He's trying to lead you down the path of righteousness. I'm gonna lead you down the path that rocks.
And he will turn out to be very powerful if you train him. It's just training him takes a lot. But at least he's actually competent at using dark magic, which, given the dark mages we've had thus far, is a surprisingly high bar to clear. But you know, I've been talking about dark magic users actually using dark magic for like 2 minutes. That is far too long. We need to get back to dark magic users being good for something that has nothing to do with their magic. Introducing the Summoner class. This class can create little dudes who have 1 HP, are flyers, and don't really do much damage. Now you would think that that's not that good, but the summons that these guys create are like crack to the enemy. They want to drop everything to beat the shit out of a little dude with 1 HP and a devil axe. This enables a lot of strategies and just makes them great frontline fodder. Honestly, making Noel a summoner kind of makes up for the fact that his stats are pretty mediocre. So yeah, yet again, dark magic users aren't good for dark magic. They're good for little guys. But there is technically one more dark magic user you can get. After beating the game, you're able to go through some dungeons multiple times to unlock characters that died throughout Sacred Stones' main story, and your reward for clearing the hardest dungeon 3 times is a playable Leon. Now, he's not that remarkable because there's nothing left for you to do after you get him, but there is something I wanted to talk about. In Japanese, his growth rates outside of his health and magic are abysmal. And at first, I was wondering why they made the ultimate unit so weak and frail. But then I remembered, it's Leon. He's a guy that canonically is losing fencing to Erica, he can't possibly keep up with Ephraim, and he's described as physically very weak. These growth rates that you see for him in the post-game are what Leon's actual growth rates would be without the dark powers of the Demon King. and I think that's a really neat touch. That kinda got lost in translation, making him a better unit at the cost of weakening the character connection that he had with his growth rates. But yeah, all of that doesn't mean anything because no one's ever used Leon and Sacred Stones because there's nothing you can do with him. And now, it's time to go over all the dark magic users in Fire Emblem 9. Yeah, Fire Emblem 9 removed dark magic. Like, entirely as a concept from reality. And it almost removed light magic too, with only one unit being capable of using it in your army, and enemy bishops being few and far between. I guess Path of Radiance just decided that Anima was the one true magic, and just didn't care about any of the others. However, there's a sequel to Path of Radiance, and I know what you're thinking. Clearly, they can add dark magic back into Radiant Dawn, so we can have dark magic again, right? Surely they're going to create dark mages for Radiant Dawn.
Yeah, but no.
I mean, dark magic is technically back, though there aren't any interesting tomes. It's just generic high damage tomes, and there's one siege tome in there, and that's it. And in terms of playable dark mages, you don't even get one until you've already beaten the game. Peleus, one of the main characters in Radiant Dawn's story, dies as part of the normal timeline. However, on a New Game Plus, you can save his life, and from there, he'll join you about 5 maps before the end of the game as a Tier 2 unit when everyone else is in Tier 3. Yeah, he's good if you train him up, but I don't know why they made the only dark magic user someone that doesn't show up unless you've already beaten the game once, and even when he does show up, he's a late game growth rate unit. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And as for Mythos of Dark Magic in Tellius, I couldn't tell you. There really isn't anything about dark magic in any supports or base conversations. At most, maybe you could say Peleus' spirit channeling, which is how he has his magical powers. He communicates with spirits and makes a pact with them. Maybe that's how dark magic works in Tellius? But I don't know. I do not know. Moving on to Shadow Dragon and New Mystery of the Emblem, Dark Mage now becomes a player class instead of enemy only like it was in Fire Emblem 3. But Dark Magic still doesn't exist. The separation is mostly for growth rate reasons, as reclassing into a mage gives you less magic but a little bit better speed, whereas reclassing into a Dark Mage or Sorcerer gives you more damage and magical power, but a little less speed. Yeah, that's about it. Huh. Man, dark magic users for the first 12 games of the series were either not that great, really great, but only because of things that aren't dark magic, or Canis. If only dark magic could be in a Fire Emblem game, and it's actually incredibly powerful. Like, one of the best strategies you can deploy involves dark magic. If only such a game in the Fire Emblem series truly existed.
This is it! This power! Darkness! The true darkness!
At long last, my prayers have been answered. Fire Emblem Awakening is probably the best showing for dark magic in the entire franchise. The way that it works is Awakening doesn't technically have a dark magic rank. It just has one magic stat and one magic rank. However, some magic tomes are specially marked as dark magic, and the only way a class can use them is if they are specifically of the Dark Mage or Sorcerer class. Or if you have the Shadow Gift ability, but I'll get into that in a bit. Now, what do dark magic tomes provide? A lot of fun secondary effects that just aren't on other weapons. You have the generic, just stronger than other tomes of their kind magic spells like Flux. Nosferatu has decided that it's dark magic again, and its life-draining ability is really good. Mire is the only siege tome in the game, so it's your only way to pelt enemies from afar. and dark magic has the only brave tome outside of the incredibly awkward and hard to get Celica's Gale. So dark magic is really good. So the tomes are useful, but what about the lore? Well, Awakening doesn't often concern itself with lore that much, and I actually think it kinda works to dark magic's benefit. It's treated more like witchcraft, the kind of stuff where you see 3 witches around a cauldron, throwing in living toads, a dash of paprika, and magical herbs they found in Narnia, and creating a potion of dick flattening or something like that. And it leads to just mostly lighthearted and silly supports, with Tharja and Henry, the game's 2 dark mages, kind of just running amok, causing mischief, intentional or otherwise, with their curses and hexes. It's not deep, you're not going to see a character study like with Canis or Noel, but you don't really need it. Honestly, amidst the sea of super serious stuff, it's kind of a breath of fresh air, and I like its less serious attitude here. But for the moment of truth, the dark magic has some enjoyable stuff and supports. It has some useful tomes. How do the units use it? Well, you get 2 dark mages in Awakening naturally. Tharja, who's more fast and higher damage, to Henry, who's more accurate and bulkier but a little slower. But that's not important because they both can do the thing that dark magic wants to do in this game: Nosferatu tanking. The concept of Nosferatu tanking is simple. The spell, Nosferatu, heals you for the damage you deal. So you take a dark mage, put them on the front lines with a Nosferatu, and then they'll kill everything, and any damage they take will then be healed by Nosferatu, so they don't need any help and can just solo and map entirely on their own. Now, this is technically possible in any Fire Emblem game that has Nosferatu, but why is it so good in Awakening? Well, there's a few reasons. 1, Nosferatu is very easy to obtain. You can buy it in a shop after about 10 chapters. It's no big deal at all, compared to other games like Thracia, where it's pretty hard to come by. Then, you add on the ability to pair up. In Fire Emblem Awakening, you can have a unit pair up with another unit, and then give that unit a ton of stat boosts. So sure, your mage might be in danger of dying in one hit, but if you give them some bulky boy like Frederick or something, that's not really a problem anymore. Or if they're just not dodging enough, you can give them someone fast like Long Q. Not to mention Awakening's large prevalence of rally and buff skills means that you can really just send someone out and demolish an entire enemy force by themselves. Or not technically by themselves, but they got pair up, but like pair up still makes them one unit. This is getting confused. The other thing that makes it good is Awakening's skill system. You can give your unit a lot of useful skills, like the Dark Mage's own natural things that lower enemy avoid, therefore making Nosferatu hit more often, or you can give them other skills, like Vengeance, and that's it really, just Vengeance, because that skill has a ridiculously high activation rate and does more damage the more you're damaged. So you take a lot of damage, Vengeance activates, and then not only are you healing all of that damage up, you're using that damage to make more damage. It creates an insane cycle, and is why Nosferatu tanking is at its strongest in Awakening. In fact, it's one of the best strategies to use in Lunatic mode. It's that good. But okay, the other thing I want to talk about with Awakening is the existence of the skill Shadow Gift. I was talking about it earlier, but in exchange for giving up one of your unit's 5 skill slots, you can have any magic-wielding class use dark magic. It's introduced on Aversa specifically, as she's kind of in a class that's made for it, as you can give dark magic to Aversa's Dark Flyer class. But there's a unique problem with that. You can't do it anymore. Aversa was recruited as part of the Spot Pass chapters, which required you to connect your 3DS to the internet to download a small handful of free chapters, and you can't connect your 3DS to the internet anymore. Which means you can't get Aversa, and with her, Shadow Gift. Shadow Gift was also obtainable by the DLC, as the DLC for Micaiah and Katarina both have Shadow Gift naturally on them. And you can't get the DLC anymore either. So... you should have had a 3DS in 2014, you dumb fuck. So, for a brief moment, we experienced the joy of dark magic being really good. Well, that was immediately dashed for the next game. Fire Emblem Fates has the same dark magic system as Awakening, with there being a separate category for dark magic, and only sorcerers and dark mages can use them. But here's the thing. There's only one dark magic spell in the entire game, and that's Nosferatu. And you might be thinking, well, gee willikers, Steve, you just spent several minutes talking about how Nosferatu is so good, it sucks my dick and does my taxes for me. Yeah, in Awakening, it got hit with a nerf hammer incredibly hard in Fire Emblem Fates. It now can no longer double, so no matter how much faster you are than your enemy, nope, can't do it, just one hit of Nosferatu. It cannot critical hit under any circumstance. You can't activate any skills while it's equipped, so goodbye to the vengeance strategy. And it reduces your evasion by 20% if you have it equipped. It's just not that good anymore. Yeah, with heavy investment you can kind of make it work, but it's just not worth it. And it's the only dark magic spell. It's to the point where I really don't even consider Odin, Nyx, and Ophelia dark mages. Like, it's just Nosferatu. But for the sake of being consistent and going over everyone, I will go over the 3 dark mages in Fates. Odin is really, really volatile. His growth rates are all hovering around 50%, and his base stats are hovering around usable. Because of this, he is either going to become an unstoppable monster who is capable of taking care of everything by himself, or he's going to be actual poop from a butt. If you want to use a dark mage in Fates, you're probably better off using someone else, but again, Odin can become a god. You just have to keep up the blind delusion. Nyx, meanwhile, is much more specialized for being a mage. She hits incredibly hard and hits incredibly fast, while being made of actual tissue paper. Though it's a bit more problematic in Conquest than it would be for other games. Due to the sheer amount of enemies and powerful skills lying around, it's a lot harder to keep a unit like Nyx safe as it would be in other games, but it's still more than doable, and your reward for it is a woman who can carry her weight. Though she does have accuracy problems, but, you know, every hit at the end of the day is a 50-50, you either hit it or you don't. And lastly, Ophelia does not suffer from any of the problems that her father does. She is much more reliable in her magic damage as long as you pair Odin off with someone who's magically inclined, like the aforementioned Nyx. If you do that, she can carry her weight immediately and will find a slot in your army in no time, likely replacing her father. Moving on to Fire Emblem Three Houses, dark magic makes a triumphant return to not sucking poop from a butt. Magic in Three Houses is separated under white and black magic, much like in Gaiden and Echoes, but some units, when studying black magic, learn dark magic instead. You can tell what's a black magic spell and what's a dark magic spell by the fact that all dark magic spells have a Greek symbol in their name. For some reason, I guess Fire Emblem Three Houses thinks Greeks are inherently evil. Anyways, dark magic in Three Houses is fairly powerful, with some high damage spells and some useful support spells, such as Swarm, which lowers enemy speed by 5 after they're hit by it, so some slower unit can come up, double, and kill them. And few units can actually learn dark magic, making it feel more special when you get a dark magic spell. Specifically, Hubert, Lysithea, and the DLC character Happy are the only ones that naturally have a dark magic spell list instead of black magic, and Edelgard and Yuritsa are the only ones that have a combination of both black and dark magic in their spell list. If you don't want to use those 5 units specifically, or if you're in the Blue Lion's house and you don't get any of them naturally, you have to use the Dark Seal to promote one of your other magic users into a Dark Mage. However, there's a few asterisks to that. Dark Mages are a male-only class, so any women that want to use magic are not allowed to be Dark Mages. I assume this is because the ultimate magic class, Gremory, is female-locked, so they were trying to give men something to even the playing field. But also, Dark Mages and Dark Bishops can only learn Miasma if you aren't naturally able to learn Dark Magic. So yeah, technically any man in the game can become a Dark Mage, but they really can't use Dark Magic. It's just Miasma. So yeah. Moving on to the mythos of Dark Magic. It's something that's never directly stated to the player, but if you think about it, you see the through line. All 5 of the characters capable of using dark magic have some connection to those who slither in the dark, the game's main evil dark cult. Edelgard, Lysithea, and Happy were all experimented on with their sick magic, so that's why they can use dark magic. And while I couldn't find anything that states that Yuritsa or Hubert were directly experimented on, it is a fact that both of them have worked very closely with those who slither in the dark, so you could logically say they picked it up somewhere from there. I think it's a really neat bit of world building that isn't too difficult to realize, but is still not told into your face. It feels fun to think about it and realize the connection, at least in my opinion. As for how good the units are at using dark magic, your 3 magic users, Happy, Hubert, and Lysithea, can all use dark magic very well. They have very good magic and speed stats, meaning that they're going to do a ton of damage with them. Lysithea is also a meme in the community for how well the dark magic spells can destroy the Death Knight, so that's something for her. And while those 3 are really good at using their dark magic, Edelgard and Yuritsa aren't so much. Their stats are much more suited for physicality. Edelgard likes to swing her axe around and do a ton of damage. Yuritsa likes to ride atop a cavalry and strike his enemies down with his lances. Their high magic growths honestly aren't well spent on using dark magic, they're well spent on using magical weapons like the bolt axe. They can do it if you want, but honestly they're not really meant to use dark magic. It's just kind of there if you want to go that route. And moving on to Fire Emblem's most recent entry, in Fire Emblem Engage, dark magic is once again not real. So yeah.
Why do you disappoint me? Second by second, you waste my time.
Despite being absent from Fire Emblem's most recent entry, I still have a love of dark magic, and I can't wait to see it in the future. You have a lot of dark mages not actually been useful for dark magic? Yeah, but I just love the look of the class, I love the look of the spells, and even if they've not always been the most useful, I still want to find a way to put a dark mage in every playthrough that I do. They look really cool, almost always have really good lore behind them. They're one of my favorite classes for a reason. Though, bit of advice, don't try to use dark magic in real life. It's apparently frowned upon to slit goats' throats during parties. Don't ask me how I know that. Thank you very much for making it to the end of this video. It was a lot of fun to make, though quite difficult given that I had the entire franchise to look over, but hopefully I didn't flub any details too bad, or didn't forget anything too egregious. If I did, God knows you will let me know about it, and you know what? If you bitch, I still get comments for engagement, so I still win even if I lose. In all seriousness, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I truly mean that. If you would like to, please consider joining my Discord server, links in the description below, or my Patreon, link also in the description below. Any money you have would be greatly appreciated, but please keep in mind it is entirely optional, and I will still be posting shit even if you don't give me a cent. My patrons include the likes Of Adebayo Thompson, Alex Orliga, Mew is not beating the Tails allegations, Andrew Crockett, Bean Juice, Benz Again, Dr. McBackstab, Hell on Heelys, Despacito 2, Larmachi, Lysevening Bolt, Lindis Mai, Natsume Terumi, Susano the Divine Warrior, Kobo Kaneru, Lambda 11, and Takane Lu in a trenchcoat, Marth War Criminal, Lorga Lorgan, Plaid Arrow, played is pronounced like the pattern, Ranger Man Sam, Shen Lu, Viri the Artist, Yogirl Olwyn, Brentendo 11, Drew Hack, Fire Emblem Lord, Ginger, Gugu Gaga, Cornelia Milkers 92, Inverse, Lev Maverick, Maple Knight, and Upscale Furry Trash. Thank you all for your continued support, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.